Hello, my fellow Texans. It's Roger D with Texas Tea, where I bring on entrepreneurs, hustlers, and prodigies of the local Texas area. And they come on to tell you guys what has made them successful. And hopefully through their stories, you can improve your own life. Today, I have on the show Houston's own sales samurai. He has sold over $287 million worth of business-to-business services. Joe Heller.
Hey, Roger. Thanks, man. It's awesome to be here.
Hey, man, I'm happy you're here. I'm happy you're super bright.
I am super bright, man. It's like, kind of dreary outside, so I figured it'd be like brighten up the day.
Yeah, you're trying to bring that
rockin', man.
Rockin', groovy, as you said.
Groovy, exactly,
Yeah.
man. Groovy cool.
Groovy cool, yeah. And if you guys can't see it, but he also has pink laces on. Which
I do, man, on my shoes. I have them on all my shoes. So there you go.
And the socks. And the socks. Bringing absolute brightness to this dreary day. So I'm trying a new thing where I have kind of a quick little quip of advice. So if someone was like, hey, Joe, sales samurai, Heller, what can you tell me advice-wise if I have no idea about sales and I want to get into the B2B services space? What would be like the initial, this is what you need to do to be successful? This is what you need to be a samurai.
Well, samurai is kind of funny because I haven't had that moniker in years, but it was a nickname that I acquired just because I basically slayed the dragon, the beast, back in the day. So, but the best advice I can give anyone in sales, whether it's B2C, which is business to consumer, or B2B, which is business to business, is really understand their marketplace, their audience, and what those pain points are for that audience, and exactly how to convey that in a way that they understand it. Because if there's a disconnect, then you're never going to engage, and that's really where the story ends. So really it's about your market, your message, and matching your message to that marketplace. And of course, there's all kinds of great sales models out there. A real simple one is spin selling.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah, and I knew Neil and hung out with Neil at Huthwaite & Associates. So, and I actually designed a prospecting model around that, because spin obviously is for after you get in front of the prospect, or to engage in the selling process. And so I actually engaged and built a whole front end funnel that fit with spin selling, and it was under something I was playing around with called the Prospecting Institute, because prospecting, quite frankly, is no fun. But I made it fun back in the day, which is exactly how I was able to achieve some of these great milestones. Because when you're sitting in front of a qualified buyer that you understand the pain points of, selling is not selling; it's just really solving the problem. And it's like, God, Joe, I feel like I've known you forever. Thank you so much. Where do I sign?
Yeah.
And it's a very awesome experience.
Yeah. So mainly before someone gets into any industry, they want to know kind of, or at least a sales position in that industry, understand what consumers or businesses in that industry are, or the end consumers or the end businesses in that industry are going through in terms of what they need, what their pain points are, and then matching it up to their own story.
Yeah, I mean, certainly you want to have that bridge to create some synchronicity, but I think based on what you said, there's one important thing that I see a lot of B2B people just totally blow. When they come in and they bring their team of sales engineers or whatever it might be to sell, they're focusing on the corporation. They're not selling to the human beings that are sitting in that room. Some of the most successful and biggest sales that I made was, and actually helped other people make, was helping remind them that everyone has a personal incentive to either say yes or no. And so is that decision maker or decision makers, what is their motivation? And give you a great example, I was working with a sales training company. It's kind of funny because the sales training company hired me to help them make more sales. And I won't mention their name. This is back in my sales samurai days. But essentially what I taught them was to understand the market, and give you a great example. So this one gentleman who I was working with, his name was Phil. That's actually his real name. was trying to break into this company. I've been calling on this company. As a matter of fact, it's a Houston company called ABB, which is down the road here from your office. And ABB, big engineering company, their stock had plummeted. They'd had like some off quarters. And so I knew that the human aspect for the VP of sales, which of course is the target decision maker to buy sales training, right? His stock was underwater because I went and did some research on SEC.gov and some other things and got some real understanding. So our pitch to him about the sales training wasn't necessarily about driving revenues, but it was really more about him driving the stock price up. Because what we did was we planted in his mind that we were going to create millions of dollars in his bank account.
Yeah.
So that was the incentive, not necessarily the company, because the company is this big inanimate object. So we humanized it, we put it into a perspective that made it logical and created that emotional incentive for him to make that buying decision. And I think we got, Phil tried to get in this company for like 9 months, and we made a $30,000 sale within 3 weeks.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
So shortcutting it.
Yeah. And that's a really good point that you make, where it's a human thing, not a company thing. And you want to find out what the driving factor is for that individual you're selling to.
That's correct.
Because especially in our space, where we have a lot of mom and pop shops or what have you, sometimes it's way more of the relationship than anything else, because what that individual human thing is that they want to work with someone they like. And that's sometimes the driving factor over every other aspect of the product or what's being sold. But to touch more on what you talked about, aside from the relationships factor, is I have a client whose driving factor has not really anything to do with the price, but has to do with how his own clients would react to the price, regardless of how good it was or bad it was. It was more term and being able to change, because he could get in hot water with his own clients if he went too far of a term. And I've seen this before too, with maybe it's not the owner of the company, but like a VP, where them cutting costs significantly gave them way less of a reward than just making sure that they didn't goof and have it go up significantly. So protection was way more important than total downward cost, or getting it at the right time.
Right. Well, they're mitigating risk, right?
Yeah.
But I will actually argue the point that it's relationship, because there's been studies done where the number one reason people buy from you is because they trust you.
Of course.
Actually, is like number 7 or number 8. I don't remember exactly now.
Right.
Because I could like you, go out, have a beer with you, drink a Texas tea with you.
Thanks.
Exactly. But that doesn't mean I'm going to do business with you, because I don't trust you.
Oh, 100%.
And then, of course, price is something unique as well, because price is like 5 or 6 down the list when they did this survey of all these Fortune 500 companies probably a decade ago now. But I'm sure the survey is still relevant. And price just means you haven't conveyed the value in the proper way. So if people are cutting price, then they haven't communicated the value. And everybody who sells on price has now delineated their product into a commodity. And so you've got to break free of that commodity aspect. Otherwise, you're going to go down the deluge and always play the pricing game. You've got to figure out how to create that uniqueness and position yourself to have that value that's intrinsic to that buyer in that company. It's going to drive. And so you've got obviously subjective feel-good types of ROI, but you also have these tangible types of ROI that you can factor in. And so when I'm building out a sales model, I'm covering the full gamut to truly understand how to wrap my head around and how to convey the message. So, and as a matter of fact, I don't know if I've ever had somebody come back and say, Joe, you're too expensive.
Yeah, and that's good. So they already know exactly the value you bring, so it's not revolving around the price anymore. They realize that the price matches up with the value you're going to bring.
That's right. And part of that is preceding. So I talked about prospecting just a minute ago. So you're actually preceding the initial meeting, so they have a great understanding of the value you're bringing and the hole that you fill. So obviously, if you follow the spend selling model, which is situation, problem, implication, need, you understand their problem and how it's the implication and what that cost to them is. And so if that problem is costing them $100,000 and your solution costs $20,000, it's a win-win-win. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they go like, Joe, how do you sell like that? Well, if I'm going to make you $100, would you give me 10? Heck
course.
yeah, of course,
Yeah.
right?
How many times can I do that would be my question.
As long as you don't try it in Vegas, I think you're doing
that's,
good, right?
That's true. That's true. And real quick, not because we'll get way too off of it from originally, I completely agree with you on the relationship. When I did say relationship, I 100% meant trust. Because, yeah, you're right. If someone just likes you, yeah, they're gonna go out and have a Texas tea with you, maybe.
Exactly.
But they're not gonna buy from you. That when I was saying before, it's replacing relationship with trust. It's way more important to some customers, regardless of what product you're bringing, that they trust that you're making the right decision for them, bringing the right product to them. They look to you as a trusted advisor in whatever industry you're selling from.
That's right. And you may think that, oh my God, Joe, we're a commodity industry. But, I've worked with moving companies and help them differentiate themselves and actually now carry a premium in their marketplace, or even a conveyor belt loading trucks in a service company that would work with them. And they were able to differentiate themselves because we're able to put in 3 shifts and also maintain the uptime to 5 nines. Based on a service protocol I put in place, which completely differentiated them from every other company in that space, because they could actually guarantee that they had the right parts in stock and can get that to you and replace to have the maximum uptime within just a couple hours.
That's awesome.
And also, because let's just think about it this way: even if let's say your conveyor belt breaks, you've got a crew of 8 people that are working on that conveyor belt, and it takes 5 hours or 6 hours to get the parts and get it fixed, versus 30 minutes or 45 minutes to have it dropped in. So not only are you looking at the tangible cost of getting the operations up and running, but you've got 6 guys sitting around twiddling their thumbs, which is a cost that a lot of people don't factor in. And of course, when you're a savvy salesperson or marketer, you understand how to factor in all the costs, because the decision maker typically just kind of sees things and doesn't really, in a general sense, and so it helps because he sees it day in and day out, or she sees it day in and day out. You've got to peel back the Band-Aid and really kind of help them understand the nuances that are critical in making that operation run at 100%. So what I'm suggesting is a salesperson, in addition to just selling, they've got to be an expert. Again, going back to my first statement, they have to understand the market.
Right. 100%. Completely agree there. And that's great how you put it, where they have to look at it. They have to be able to present it to the decision maker from a total cost perspective, whatever those factors are.
Right.
So to go down the rabbit hole of selling a commodity, I think we won't use my industry, but I think even more commoditized. We can do my industry too. But I think credit card processing is probably the most commoditized B2B I've seen. How would you make credit card processing stand out?
That's an industry I've never really looked at, but I would say that just like any industry, there is an opportunity. So what is that opportunity? So credit card processing, it could be dealing with refunds or holding money or a number of different things. I don't really want to go into cutting processing fees, because look at American Express. They process, and they are very expensive relative to their processing fees. And again, there are different benefits you can carry with the card. I would imagine there's also different benefits you would carry as someone who would accept that card at their place of business. So that's kind of a broad brush, because I haven't really dove into that specifically, but I would say that there is plenty of opportunity to kind of matrix or mind map out scenarios and just really kind of pick and choose what you feel is going to work. And then here's the important thing, is then you go out and you test it. So a lot of people go, well, let's do this, and they have no idea whether it's going to work or not, and they spend like $1 gazillion and hire people, and it fails miserably. This is kind of what I call hope and pray marketing. It's kind of like you've got this great idea, and you fly an airplane over the prospects, and you drop like little leaflets, brochures, and people don't use brochures anymore, so that's kind of like old school. But
Yeah. I
and they're
still
hoping
see
and
'em.
praying, right? People are going to pick it up and go, oh my God, this is the best brochure ever. I can't wait to go back and dial on the phone. That's right.
Yeah.
Like the curly dial thingy,
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
the round dial. This is like a long time ago.
Yeah.
But anyway, my point is a lot of people that sell really rely on hope and pray marketing.
Yeah.
And that's, I believe in metrics and measurement and understanding and correlating what those metrics mean in every step of the process. It's really analytics. And you see a lot of this online now with Google Analytics and others, because you can track people through a funnel. You can track people when they stop watching a video. So you go, oh God, well, maybe I dropped the video at that particular moment. Or said something I shouldn't have because my drop rate is higher than other parts of that video. Or it tails off because maybe you lost energy or didn't have an offer that was meaningful to that buyer. Or quite frankly, maybe you were putting that video in front of the wrong buyers. And again, market to message match.
Yeah. And then you take that and you try it and you take those analytics and keep making it better and better.
That's right. It's called A/B testing. And this can be worked not only online, but also real life. And here's the beauty. Once you understand this, the most successful marketers I know today, and we're getting a little off topic of B2B, but you can actually use the same strategy of B2B as well, is they're taking people from online to offline or from offline to online versus just trying to stay solely online or trying to solely stay offline, I should say.
Got you. All right. Well, we'll put a pin in that for a second because I know I took one question for advice and we really expanded on that all the way. I definitely want to hear your origin stories. How did you get to, becoming the sales samurai?
Well, that's an interesting story because I graduated from Houston Baptist University here in town.
Yep.
And got out and got a job selling long distance service. And at the time, just like anyone else, I was trying to make decisions. Do I buy food or do I buy beer? But I also...
Very important decision.
Very important decision, when you're like 22, 21 years old. But I also couldn't sell my way out of a wet paper bag. I mean, I could not sell ice or water to a guy crawling through the desert. And so I was with this particular company about 3 months, and my sales manager at the time asked me to go for a ride with him. And he goes, Joe, I like you, going back to our like you conversation, but you're not selling anything, so I have to let you go. And so I made my first sale that day, and my first sale that day was actually selling him not to fire me. And he's glad I did because I broke all the company records. So I kind of dug down and began...
Just real quick, what company was this or what industry was it in?
In telecommunications.
Oh, my bad.
That's right. That's right. It's a telecom. So it's an intangible service. And then, like I said, I refocused and bought old school type of from the old masters who actually became friends of mine. People like Tom Hopkins and Brian Tracy and Jim Rohn. Matter of fact, had dinner with Tom Hopkins here in town. I guess it's like 20, 30 years ago now, I guess. And I was like, okay, so Tom, initially I was like really young in sales. So Tom, how are you successful? And he pulled out, and this is a good company barbecue down on I-10. Yeah. And he pulled out a little napkin, and he wrote GOYA on it. And I think we talked about this before.
Yeah, we did talk about this.
And I'm like, GOYA? What does GOYA mean? And because I'm thinking like it's the food company, exactly, here in Texas. Yeah. He goes, no, it's like get off your da-da-da-da. Yeah. So I'm like, oh, cool. I'm all over that because I'm super motivated now anyway. Right. So anyway, I built great relationships. I had great mentors. I had a great, and even today, I love self-learning, personal development. Because we'll never reach the end of our potential. So never give up. So, and that's me. That's what excites me. Is to continue to grow. So my point is I figured things out, and I broke all company records for revenue, for sales. I was salesperson of the month, $1 million circle, salesperson of the year, Went on to do that, and then continued. Helped some buddies of mine start a company when I left this company, another telecommunications company. We grew it to $100 million in 5 years. Wow. And that $100 million, this is actually before internet. This is before any of this kind of cool, savvy type of marketing. It's like good old school marketing. Yeah. And actually, this company at the time was the fastest growing company in U.S. history. Wow. I exited there, and me and another buddy of mine started a company that was very similar in the telecom space. And we grew that to $30 million in 3 years. And then I sold out of that. Awesome. And then I stepped into running worldwide sales for a international telecom and data companies. So we were doing data services. So I got a chance to spend some cool time in Panama and Venezuela and just kind of hang out in all these cool places, which was really nice. And then from there, that company got acquired, and I got killed like everybody else in the management staff. And then I go, you know what, this is kind of fun. What can I do next? So I decided to be a professional speaker. So I spoke all over the world for a decade on sales and marketing.
Nice.
And my biggest audience, I think, was in Kuala Lumpur, around 5,000 people, which is great. I mean, my breakout session was 800 people. People go, oh, I had a breakout session like 50 or 100 people. I'm like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
So I got a chance to work with some amazing people. Had some great mentors. I've been on stage with Tom Hopkins. I've been on stage with Tony Robbins. You know, Tony was awesome. I was like, went up to shake his hand. I'm like, where'd my hand go? It's like this giant, just huge. Tony's huge.
What do you think did you talk to Tony Robbins a decent amount?
Back in the day, yeah. I haven't talked to him in forever, but back in the day.
What do you think because I'm a big fan of Tony Robbins. What do you think you learned from him? The biggest piece that you've probably taken away from that gentle giant?
You know, a lot of people don't realize that the foundation of Tony's teachings is surrounding neuro-linguistic programming. So he actually learned that for Bandler and Grindler. He actually sold for Jim Rohn. So Jim Rohn, who I knew was a mentor of mine, was Tony's first mentor. And then of course he got into some legal stuff with Bandler and Grindler and changed the name of NLP to NAC, so Neuro Associative Conditioning, which again is still the foundation for everything he teaches today. So I would say the biggest takeaway I got from Tony was studying neuro-linguistic programming and really understanding the nuances of human behavior. And I went on to become a master practitioner in NLP. And I mean, all his courses are great, but I'm still fond of his very first course, which I believe was called Unlimited Power. And then he had Personal Power, which was second, and then he went on and did the 30 days and this and that. But Unlimited Power is really the core teaching of NLP that he did, and it's a very powerful course.
Gotcha. And for those who have heard of NLP but don't know it too in depth, what's a good way to kind of summarize what it is and how best to learn how to practice it?
Okay, so NLP stands for neuro-linguistic programming. So neuro meaning the brain, linguistics meaning how we communicate, and programming meaning we're all programmed to act in a certain way. So in other words, I can either verbally, physically, or in writing, or a number of other ways, create a rapport with you by using your words. So we all typically operate in 3 modalities, and then we have submodalities, but the 3 primary modalities are visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. And you can pretty much figure this out.
Kinesthetic is touch.
Kinesthetic is touch.
Yep.
And you can pretty much figure this out by going, well, how do I learn? So do I read or do I hear? I mean, how do I recall? I mean, what is the best way? So that typically, but it can change as well, because I know when I'm speaking, like here now, I'm very much in a visual mode because of my eyes and I'm very animated. So you can actually dial into that. So when I'm in this mode, and if you were selling to me, you'd say, Joe, I see what you're saying. I can really visualize the impact you're going to have. I'm using visual type of languaging. And this is just one very simple example. And if I was talking to a kinesthetic person like you, Roger, you're very touchy-feely, like, dude, I really feel this. I mean, and I'm also talking slower. So visual people talk really fast. Auditory people talk somewhere in the middle. And they use words like, man, I'm listening to you. I really hear what you're saying, man. It really resonates with me. So you actually tune into the language which they use. And again, you can use this even in your writing, in how you communicate.
Copyright.
Exactly. And then, of course, you can go down the rabbit hole in a number of different ways by mixing modalities. So in other words, if I've got 2 buyers and you're visual, and this buyer right here is auditory and this one's kinesthetic, I can intermix the play, and I can actually speak to you as an example in visual, and then I can mirror the person that is kinesthetic and actually do just like what you're doing right now with your fingers folded and your eyes, and I can. So there's subtle things that I can do to create rapport, where when I walk out of that meeting, people go like, Joe, it feels like I've known you forever, man. It's like, now, people will say this is manipulative, and it's not, because what you're doing is you're building congruency, because the whole thing around selling is to make sure that you're selling ethically and you're selling something to the person that actually needs it. Now, if you're selling something and you're manipulating someone for something that they don't need, dude, you need to be taken out. We're in Texas. We'll just hang you from the highest tree.
Yeah, that's not good to use it manipulatively. I feel like NLP by itself is neutral. It's just the actions and the intentions make it good or bad, right?
That's right. It's like a gun. I mean, it's a gun can be used for good or bad. I mean, just like anything else. It's the intention behind the holder of that technology.
And how do you figure out what core modality someone is?
It's pretty easy. You can actually, again, listen to the way they, the words they use.
Yeah, and you said I was kinesthetic.
The rate of speech. Yes, you're in a kinesthetic mode.
Okay.
And also by eye movement, by the rate of how you're breathing. I can actually mirror your breath and how you're breathing. I can mirror your eye movements. I can actually mirror your blinking.
Yeah.
If you were doing something like you're moving your finger here, I can move my pinky while you're moving your forefinger.
Right.
And you and I are making direct eye contact.
Yeah.
But yet your peripheral vision is picking all that up, and your subconscious is going, "This dude rocks."
Yeah. So for me specifically, because I'm trying to get it so that
you're dialing it in.
Trying to get the listeners to hear how you would do your NLP magic. Because I think a lot of people overlook NLP, and a lot of the time I think it's kind of just passed over as mirror and matching, like the kind of surface part of it, right?
Right.
How did you figure out that I was touch and feel kind of guy? Like, what are all the key parts that you read from me and you got to that point?
I think at some point you just know. I mean, I've just been around this for so long, even though I don't necessarily practice it consciously.
Yeah.
Subconsciously, it's been so wired in my brain. It's kind of like when this song comes on the radio that you haven't heard since you were in high school, and you start singing, and it's like, dude, I'll remember this. You get this awesome feeling.
Right.
You just do it.
Right. But for someone who's like new to NLP and they want to try to would want to try to figure me out, like what are the key parts they're looking for the touchy-feely person?
Again, like I said, it's the rate of speech and other things. But I would just say go to YouTube and just Google NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. You're going to find some great teachers on there.
So they want to start with finding someone who can teach them pretty well from the ground up.
Exactly.
Okay, got you.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, I took in-person classes for a couple years.
Right.
And the other cool thing about NLP is it helps your confidence.
Right.
It helps you understand and relate to the other person, so you know how to communicate with them, so you're not operating out of a fear basis.
Right.
And it's really important. Now, the other interesting thing about
scarcity, right? Out of scarcity.
Well, yeah, and the other interesting thing about NLP is once you understand how the nervous system and the neuro links and everything in your own body are programmed, you can actually re-alter your programming. So if you're super introverted, you can make yourself super extroverted. Now, you may still need to have your little introverted periods of time, but you can re-anchor a program, if you will, because we're all a set of programs, to activate that program when you're stepping into a selling situation. But you also, one of the challenging things and this is actually a benefit to NLP, just on the health side, and this is where Tony really made his name, was he would actually get people over phobias that they've never, and they struggled, and psychiatrists were not able to help them get over phobia because the phobia is anchored. And so if I'm able to, and I'm gonna give you a great example, and this is actually one I believe Tony used to use. So if you're at a funeral and people keep coming up and saying, "Hey, Roger, sorry that your dad died. Hey, Roger, sorry your dad died. Hey, Roger." So you could be like a year later playing golf with your buddies, and somebody's going to go up, "Hey, Roger," and they're going to hit you on the same shoulder, and you go, "Oh, man, I just got so sad and depressed."
Yeah.
It's because you've anchored that particular touch point with that situation. Now, with NLP, you can actually break that anchor and re-anchor happiness or joy or whatever. So it's got like taking a hit of an energy shot. You can actually program yourself to wake up. I mean, this is like Tony's like only sleeps like a couple hours a night. He's a beast.
Yeah,
He's
that's
just
crazy.
programmed himself. And that's really part of the firewalk as well, is you're overriding the fear of your conscious mind with the subconscious programming that he has put into your body that you are limitless.
Yeah. Limitless potential. And speaking of fear, by the way, so changing that over that kind of anchors and making yourself kind of swap out your fear for something else is awesome. I feel like it's that's kind of the next level. But let's say we have a salesperson that is very new, doesn't understand their mindset very well, but they're fearful to take some steps to make that call or go through the door or what have you. What early advice would you give them to get over that fear temporarily? What are some tricks for them to become courageous?
Well, I think you need to hold yourself accountable, right?
Yeah.
Before I kind of went down this rabbit hole, I would make 40 cold calls on the old school telephones, and I would actually tape the phone to my hand.
Oh,
So
wow.
I could not cut the tape off, even if
Wow.
I had to go to the bathroom. I'd learn how to work under pressure. So I had just taped the phone to my hand.
Literal pressure.
Literal pressure, exactly. So I taped the phone to my hand, and I would not cut the tape until I made 40 calls.
So accountability. Okay, got you. All right. So let's say now take it to someone who's in person on the street going B2B. If they can't, that it would not behoove them to tape their phone to their hand because they got to walk through the door. What would be something, and I'm just doing this because I know a lot of people are in streets B2B and this would be beneficial. What could hold them accountable to make sure they walk through enough businesses? Maybe have a pee break. I don't know if they want to go that hardcore. Well, what will be something to make them accountable in that situation? Because it seems like accountability will overstep fear in these.
Yeah,
early stages.
accountability. Well, that's why people get coaches, right?
Yeah.
But I would also say that what oversteps fear is love what you do.
Right.
So, in other words, if you truly love what you do, and maybe it's not exactly the product right now, but maybe it's the fact that you just love helping and serving decision makers or business owners or whoever that person is, bring greater whatever into their life or their company. Just because you've got this overriding just service to others, you can actually override fear because your service to other mentality overrides the little municipal fear that you might have in your
Purpose.
Exactly, purpose
And passion.
Purpose
so
and passion, exactly.
And I derailed myself there. So back to it. So if you can't find purpose, and you still need to be accountable, how would you make someone who has to walk through the door 40 times a day accountable? What would be like, out of the top of your head, what would I have my sales agents do?
Well, we're in Texas, so gunpoint.
Just ride around behind them.
Exactly.
Okay, minus aggressive force.
You know, we're all wearing these masks now. Well, I'm not, but most people are. So, just like, hey,
Gunpoint,
you got to
gotcha.
walk into a bank, it's
Gotcha.
you got a mask on. Anyway, so back to the point. Again, it just comes to what are your self goals. I think there are a lot of people that are lost. And
Yeah.
if you're lost and if you're not happy with what you're doing, it's probably not fear. And you're not going to make sales anyway because that attitude is going to come through because you're faking it. And even though you may be a pretty good actor, the person sitting on the side of the desk that's listening to you pitch your product really gets this feeling
Sales
that
breath.
exactly that you're not really have the integrity to sell this product, and so they're not going to buy from you.
Got you. So
do what you love.
do what you love, and then also find your why. I think what you're getting to too is like you have to have a reason that you're selling that as well, like your goals. You said
Right.
and I think I think that comes off as simple, and people are like, yeah, duh, have goals. But I think I've met so many salespeople that just don't even know what they're clawing and trying to get to. They just do, and then if you don't have a end in sight per se, at least for the short term, you just don't know how hard to go or for how long to go, and And I think that's very big too. But purpose and passion. Yeah, man. If you don't love what you're doing, right, it's going to be a chore.
Well, it's all about self-motivation. I mean, Roger, look, you got a successful business. I mean, why are you here doing this podcast? You don't need to do this podcast, man. It's something that you are motivated to do and bring this information, interviewing people like me and other guests to the marketplace. So it's about the purpose and passion and that drive, which is what Tony talked about, that drive, the driving force.
Yeah.
You know, what gets you out of bed? Do you like go, oh, God, it's Monday? Or do you go like, oh, yeah, it's Monday?
Yeah. I don't think I've ever jumped out of bed and said, "Oh yeah, it's Monday." But I'm excited. I've been excited most every day. I'd have to say though, my passion for this podcast now is that dude over there, Gonzalo. So he makes it pretty awesome, man. So it's
as we blow the meters out, like you're getting louder.
Yeah, right. But aside from that, second passion was I really wanted to have someone wear that shirt on my podcast. So I've mission accomplished. But yeah, okay, so that's a really big point, and I think who told me this quote? It was like sales can either be the lowest paying, most miserable job, or the highest paying dream job. And I've seen that a lot in salespeople, where like the lower rung of salespeople, where they're like not making that much, not making that many sales, they dread going to work every day. Whereas those who are the high performers, they love what they do, and that value just sprinkles onto them.
That's right. And I can't remember the guy's name. He wrote a book, but he sold used cars, and he broke all the records and sold because he loved what he did.
Yeah.
And had all this crazy repeat business. And he sold like $1 million. I mean, made like $1 million a year selling used cars. So he kind of blew the whole perception or myths. I can't make money selling used cars. It's like a really crummy business. But if you love it, guess what? You will. I mean, he wrote thank you notes and was just very engaged with the people he sold cars to. And these people followed up with him and bought for years. I mean, their family members and friends.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly. I was going to say that's a big thing that you're touching on right now is referrals, and the acronym ASS. After sales service, where it's essentially you're going the extra.
I've never heard that before, but there you go.
I know, a little swear there, but I remember when I thought that was so funny when I heard that myself, and I was like, okay, it's like, well, that catches your attention, right? But it is very important that after the sale, you do give exceptional service, like you're saying. This situation where I think he probably found additional ways to provide more value. And when you provide value, you tend to get value back, right?
Absolutely. And it could be simple. So in other words, I know that I told this guy who was totally underqualified to write a thank you note to a company that was interviewing him. And he was like probably number 7 or 8 on the list. He wrote a thank you note and got the job. And the guy who hired him said, you were the only person that wrote a thank you note.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, and of course, in today's age of email and stuff,
right?
Don't send a thank you email.
Yeah.
Write a thank you note. You will stand out. It will make a difference. You'll create an emotional imprint on that person that will stand out and put you at the top of the list.
Yeah.
So care. Do things that other people won't.
Right.
Dare to be different.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I just had that thought. Every customer you bring on board, you can just easily write a handwritten note that says, hey, not even like so much just thank you for your business, but thank you for the opportunity to give you massive value and to show you what I can do for your business. Something like that. Make it even more grandeur of a statement.
To your point, absolutely. But when I broke all the company records back at the telecom company when I couldn't figure things out, I wrote thank you notes to everyone. And all you have to do, and you can probably still find them online, is Google Tom Hopkins thank you notes. Yeah. And he has 10 thank you notes, which I basically did verbatim. Then I kind of mixed them up once I got comfortable. But I would send a thank you note out to every single prospect that I met.
Oh, wow.
And then you certainly can do a note with an envelope and everything else, but you can also kind of cheat and do have these really cool postcards and just write a postcard and then just drop it in the mail. It's cheaper, it's quicker, and it's super simple.
Right. Postcard. I like that because you can even make the postcard specifically. I don't know if you make it with your face on it. That'd be kind of cheesy. But
Well,
could do it
you
something-
could. I mean, you could self-brand
Yeah.
it. I mean, there are people out there in real estate that do that.
Yeah.
But they do it in a cheesy way. There's a professional way or fun
Yeah.
way to do it.
Yeah.
Or you could do it with let's say, something that reinforces your value that you just talked to them about on the front of that postcard.
Mm-hmm.
Because remember, men are very visual. So depending on who you're selling to, and of course, you have the words, and you can have a visual image which will reinforce it with the words on top of it, which reinforce that. So you're actually creating subliminal messaging. And I'm not going to get into subliminal programming here, but subliminal messaging has a direct impact as well as just the conscious impact of writing a note.
Right. That's some pretty good advice there. There's some definite ways to continue to give the value after the fact. And you did specifically say the prospect. So even though you didn't get the business yet, you're giving that very keen memory to them that you do care regardless of how things turn out. And speaking of prospecting, by the way back early when we first started this conversation, you had said that you took spin selling and you created a model for prospecting.
Correct.
I meant to ask that question. I really want to hear what that model sounds like and what that means for someone and how they can use it.
I haven't looked at that model. This model's been shelved. It's still on my computer probably somewhere.
Okay.
In 25 years at least, but it was a model or framework that surrounded prospecting and was similar to spin, but it was really designed to be the front end of spin, as well as some other consultative selling models in the day, and then have that bridge so that you could actually bridge from this prospecting model that I developed into the sales model we were actually going through and closing business. So it's really creating this value proposition, creating this awareness of where their pain points are prior to even walking in the door.
Okay. Yeah. So you're creating a cold lead into a warm lead.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And I'm also making sure that I'm languaging everything that I'm saying in the right way. So in other words, you may use video today, but back in the day, everybody was typically writing in a very corporate format. It's like very structured. And I'm like really talking and writing like one human, like you're my best friend and I'm writing to you. Because again, don't get caught up in this whole corporate grammatical structure, like you forgot a comma. That doesn't, who cares?
Yeah.
I mean, you're making a connection, and a comma is not about making a connection. And when I used to teach some of this stuff, even in some of the bigger corporations, somebody would go, well, that's a conjunction or whatever. I'm like, I don't care. And it actually is kind of funny because I was at another...
As soon as you said conjunction, I thought conjunction.
Junction, what's your function? Exactly. Dude, you're not old enough. I'm old enough to know that.
I remember seeing the videos when I was a kid.
Schoolhouse Rock.
Yeah. No.
So to your point, I think I was at HP or Compaq, and I was teaching some of their marketing groups, and I laid out 2 marketing pieces, which I handed out to about 50 people. They had pretty big marketing teams at the time. Maybe it was Compaq, which was acquired by HP. And I gave them their marketing piece, and then a marketing piece that I designed off of their marketing piece, and I gave them 5 minutes to read them, and then I said, so how many of you read the HP piece? And really kind of like 1 or 2 out of 50 raised their hand. How many of you read my piece? Everybody raised their hand. And then I asked them, well, which one would you buy? And everybody raised their hand for mine as well.
Sweet.
Because I had humanized it, not just made it like a corporate spec sheet. Okay. I didn't care about...
How did you humanize it? Do you remember?
Well, yeah, it's because I language it like I'm talking to you.
Okay.
So, and this is the challenge that a lot of people make with a note or even an email, because I've worked with accountants, and accountants are like very structured. And I'm like, well, let me give you a great example. I worked with this company and their CEO. Again, I was like going, Joe, I can't get this woman to call me back. I've been trying to get hold of her for 3 months.
Yeah.
And I said, David, his real name. I said, David, include this little sentence in your email, and let's just see what happens. And because typically in an email, you'd go like, I'd really like to get together with you. And then I just said, change that one word like to love. I'd love to get together with you.
Yeah.
So in other words, I've taken the commodity, like we talked about earlier, out of the commodity, and I put a emotional context, especially someone like a woman is going to engage with. So it's words have power.
Yeah.
So when he changed it to, I'd love to get together with you, she called him back and they were together and had a meeting or lunch within like 3 days.
So it's just figuring. So once again, figuring out your audience, not being constrained to the corporate way of writing things, opening up to what just fits for the scenario.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to be constrained to the corporate way of writing things, you might as well just, I'll bring the nails and hammer and we'll get across because you're going to fail in sales.
Well, at least you'd bring the tools.
Exactly.
That's very nice of you. Oh, man. Not to go too much of a right turn on all of this, but as you talked about Tony Robbins, kind of changing up your mindset, I want to kind of go back to that. I know we've talked a lot about how important it is to meditate, how important it is to let go and kind of get in a better mindset.
Oh, we haven't talked about meditation this episode.
That's true. We did not. No. Oh, sorry. In the past.
In the past, you and I have talked about meditation.
Yeah. First of all, how important do you think, because I really want to nail this home because people just don't believe me, how important is mindfulness and meditation to just love sales, but life in general?
You know, I think it's important to find space, whether it's meditation or going for a walk in nature, because that's really a walking meditation.
Yeah.
So I think everyone needs to find that peace because we're so wound up, we're so dialed into our phones and different things, we have no real downtime.
Right.
So by finding a place to catch your breath, and even, sprinters or marathoners, they catch their breath.
Right.
We forget to catch our breath. And meditation is one way to do that. Yeah. And whether that's going out and going fishing or hanging out playing catch with your son or whatever it might be, just have that downtime to let things go. Yeah. Because all this is going to reflect in your health and other things. So it's mindset. And you're going to be able to, just like if you're a world-class athlete, you've got to have that downtime for your muscles to recover. So it was where Stephen Covey actually talked about sharpening the saw. So you can try to chop down a tree with a dull saw, and it'll take you forever. But the sharper the saw, which is what this downtime, what this meditation is, and again, it's going to be different for each person. I'm not saying go out and drink some wine because that actually is not. That's really not the downtime I'm talking about. I'm just talking about just learning to be by yourself and being at peace.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that not drinking wine, like you're not talking about alcohol. I find it that, especially when I've gotten into a good rhythm of being present in meditation, it's almost like, well, I'm sober now, but I wouldn't even want to have a beer because it was almost like disrupting my peace. Which is wild because you'd think a lot of people drink to stop thinking, which is funny because, like, if you can get to a peaceful state already, it's now taking away that peace. The peace that you found before in alcohol is completely different. It's actually chaos.
Right, especially when you wake up the next morning with a hangover. But
yes.
But really, and to your point, I think a lot of people, and I admit I've done some of this in the past on stressful days, it's not really to stop thinking, it's really to escape. And so there's a difference between escapism and really being and moving into peace.
Right.
There's a tremendous difference in that, Roger.
Yeah, 100%. A random thing I had happen today, I was actually telling Cole, one of my agents, about it today. I was out in the field, and I got really present in the moment. And I remember this is just kind of random, but you made me think of it. I was looking at this prospect, and I remember thinking to myself, I was like, I love this man. I want the best for this individual. And it was a great feeling. Like when you get to that point where you're just like so happy just to be even conversing with another human, I think that can bring your sales game to the next level because it's not even about sales. It's just about living.
Right, and that was kind of what my point earlier. What I was talking about earlier is really connecting and just doing things out of service to that person, out of love.
Yeah.
Because you just love doing what you're doing so much.
Yeah.
And you're just trying to help and serve this decision maker, whoever this person is,
Yeah.
to make their life better.
Exactly. And when you're worried about what you can do for someone else, it's like everything else doesn't matter. Things fall away. You no longer have to worry about your own petty problems, material problems, and it just becomes, like you said, it's just like you're just filled with that want to be of service. But anyways, not to.
No. That's all important. I mean, and people get so caught up in their own stuff. I mean, this is actually one of the things that Tony does. I mean, when he started doing it, was going and working in these church kitchens for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And now he delivers like 10,000 turkeys or something on Thanksgiving, something crazy, or
awesome.
even more.
Yeah.
I don't even know what the number is today, but because you forget and you get caught up in your own stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I've seen children that are burned and disfigured, and it kind of makes my little pity kind of worries that I lost 10 grand in a deal or whatever that might be. That's nothing.
It is nothing.
That is nothing compared to what they're going through and their suffering. So sometimes you've got to get a reality slap, right? And really get perspective on what's going on relative to getting everything into perspective so you can serve not only others, but yourself.
Yeah.
The Bible says, love thy neighbor as yourself. The challenge with we don't love ourselves.
Yeah.
So because we don't love ourselves, how can we extend that love to others?
Yeah.
And this is, and again, I'm kind of off on a little rant here, but
No, it's okay.
we need to be able to care for ourselves. I mean, I'm almost 60 years old, and I love life, and I think it reflects in who I am.
You're late 57. For some reason, I thought you were like late 40s, early 50s. So that was always what I thought. Only because of the gray hair, honestly.
Right.
Yeah. By the way, that's
well, you don't have gray hair, man. So
it's really easy for me to hide.
I need to do what you do.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll lose a few years.
Yeah. There's nothing more amazing than being bald, because
I've shaved my head before.
Yeah, that's great. Because for me, I've always wanted to look like a turtle.
Ninja Turtle.
And then now I know.
Hey, you got a Sail Samurai and Ninja Turtle. There we go, man.
That's so ridiculous. No, that's super cool, man. And I was gonna say, just because you feel you when we've talked before, you just, in your eyes and pupils, I can see the youngness and the youth. And I think a lot of people who let the stress fall off, it's like you have a reinvigoration of youth, despite your material body, what have you. And I think having that kind of that feeling and energy is something that any salesperson, or anyone in general, but I think, I know we're on this podcast talking about sales and getting better. I think not only having the tips and tricks is important, I'd say that's almost like your technical tools, but having the right gas in the tank.
Yeah, mindset.
Yeah, exactly, is really important too. So,
Agreed.
let's say someone's like, you know what, Roger, you know what, Joe, I'm neither a Ninja Turtle nor a Sail Samurai yet, but I want to learn the ways of serenity. I want to learn the ways of being able to really enjoy what I do, regardless of what it is. What advice would you give for a beginner that has no idea about mindfulness, still gets kind of run by emotion? Where do they start in meditation, or where should they start learning, or what path would you set them on?
Again, there's all kinds of great meditation teachers out there, and I think each teacher, as a matter of fact, I know each teacher has their own unique style, and you can get a meditation app to begin a meditation practice. I personally use Insight Timer, and I've been using them for years, but there's 10% Happier, and there's just a number of different meditation apps out there which have guided meditations. They've got music, and I really think that's the best way to do it. And actually, one of the things I did when I first started meditating is I had my Bose headset,
Yeah, I think
which
you told me about that.
or
Noise
the
canceling.
noise canceling, and so I'm kind of in my own little world. And then I bought these. It's called Blindfold, BLINDFOLD. It's basically a blindfold, has little eye sockets, but it basically just wraps you in total darkness. So basically, I put my Bose on and the blindfold on, and I am in my own little cocoon, and I am listening to this guided meditation for 10 minutes. And guess what, man? I am locked into my own little mental room for 10 minutes. And I'm like going, oh, that wasn't so hard.
Yeah.
And then now, I meditate like an hour a day. I mean, I do my own thing, but you have to start somewhere. So from that perspective, I would just say play around and find a teacher, find an app that you like, and see what works for you. And even if it's like 2 or 3 minutes in the beginning, you have to start somewhere, because I'm very hyper ADD, and I know probably the first couple times, like, oh my God, it's like been 3 minutes. I think I broke a record here.
Yeah. That's all. That's that's really cool. You could do an hour. I do about 21 minutes right now, but
Nice.
If I had the time available, I could probably do more. I think I'm going to start trying to do that a little bit more on the weekend, because it's going to get to the point where it's just like amazing, just absolute bliss, right? But going back to this, so someone who, whatever career they're in, but we're talking about sales today, wants to get to a better mindfulness, don't try it yourself. Get some help and get some guided meditation and try to block out.
Well, I mean, you can certainly try it yourself, but I always recommend, trying to find that right match.
Right.
That can be that anchor. Like we talked about anchors earlier, to get you into a rhythm, so that you continue it. So the key to meditation is doing it every day. And to your point, you said you do it 20 minutes a day, 21 minutes a day. You can break it into 10 minutes and 10 minutes, or even stop somewhere in your desk and turn your chair around, look at the window, close your eyes for 5 minutes, and maybe put some music on your computer, and just take a small break to catch your breath, to refuel your tank.
Yeah, I do that a lot too. I realize a good thing for me is that I'll try to meditate quickly upon transition from one situation to another. Like maybe I just went out to lunch and I'm back at the office, do a quick 3 minutes, just get back into focus. Or, I was out in the field with an agent today, and every time we got out of the car to go to a new business, I would try to quickly focus on the nature that was around me and try to like snap myself back into the present moment and get out of my head. And the benefit I've found from this the most, especially in the business world, is when you start to let go of the problems, it's like you free your head for inspiration. And all of a sudden,
That's true.
All of a sudden, when you're not blocking it up all by all these things you can't change and the things that have happened in the past, it's like when you ask a question to the universe, it's like it immediately answers.
That's correct. Yeah. But you got to be ready to hear it, right?
Yeah, that's true.
You got to be receptive. And to what we were talking about earlier, let's say a samurai. So you got the samurai sword.
Yeah.
Now, the samurai sword isn't any good unless you know how to use it.
Correct.
And so like a skill, like you're selling, you may be a salesperson or a marketer, but you need to have these tools like meditation to have that clear mind to allow this to come through. You have to have these skills that you're going to use or learn, like NLP or spin selling or some of the other models out there from Achieve Global or whatever sales training company that's out there, in order to impact the blade of the samurai sword. So when you swing it, you don't just go bink and it falls off. You actually slice through.
Right.
Now, so that's the important thing to know is all these things build up this tremendous toolbox, and it goes to our earlier discussion where you go, well, Joe, tell me a little bit how you figured out I was kinesthetic. I'm like, it's just annoying.
Yeah.
Because that's just the way I'm wired now.
Yeah.
I can pick that out.
Yeah.
And it will become, this subconscious thing that you just have this knowing.
Yeah. It's just practice, and then your brain creates, as I think you mentioned before, these neural pathways.
Exactly.
And it's just it just knows what it should be looking for, and then it lets your conscious mind know the situation.
Right. And I'll also say that in personal development, human potential, you want to keep expanding your goals, expanding who you are. A lot of people have, let's say, a quota of 5,000, whatever that number is a month if you're a salesperson.
Sure.
So what happens when you blow through that quota? Do you lose your momentum? How do you maintain your focus?
Right.
So part of this is the mindfulness that you talk about. So I just wanted to address this because there's a lot of people like me, when I first started blowing through my quotas, when I was a young sales pup, I figured out, before I was the samurai, I was like, okay, I already sold like 2 or 3 months worth of my quota in the first 3 weeks of this month.
Beautiful.
So it's like, what do I do now? I go out and party and drink beer, which I did initially, but I also at some point figured out, God, if I can do this, I've got accelerators built into my comp plan, and if I continue to do this, I'm going to blow this comp plan out of the water.
Right.
And it wasn't necessarily for the money. It was also seeing how far I could evolve myself into reaching my full potential, which is why I blew through all the company records.
Right. So you just kept setting the bar higher and higher for yourself.
Exactly. Because as we talked about commodities earlier, if you don't continue to set the bar higher for yourself, you've put yourself in a box.
Right.
And that box is going to limit your growth in all areas of your life. And essentially, you've commoditized yourself. You've stopped growing as a human being, as an individual. You've stopped learning how to love. And that's one thing that we all should do, is expand our ability to love.
Oh, 100%. And going back to what I said before, it was an amazing moment to just feel this unconditional love, not romantic love, but love for another human being. And I think, as cheesy as it is,
Well, it's not cheesy, man. This is like rock solid.
no,
This is like
100%. No, I was going to say cheesy. The line of love makes the world go round, right?
right.
We've heard that so many times, but there's so many bad things that happen in the world, and if you could start, if more people could start seeing scenarios from a loving stance, then
a lot less bad things would happen.
Exactly. And so, from a micro level, if you're in your life trying to better your career or your sales career, you're going to grow if you can see things from a loving and understanding perspective, accepting what is,
Right.
and understanding others from the standpoint they're at.
Right. Well, and let's even look at it this way. We're all going to die. Nobody's getting out of this life alive.
That's true.
So
That's true.
why
Unless
not?
we can upload our consciousness somewhere, right?
Well, people out there that are probably doing that.
Yeah.
So my point is why not make this the best life ever? Why not grow and expand and evolve and ascend and make yourself just this immaculate person versus like this old person who's watching, I don't know, some like
Judge Judy.
Exactly. Something on TV, and you're in a chair and you're just kind of miserable and you're
Bitter,
achy and stuff.
regretful.
I mean, dude, when I'm like maybe 107 or something, 108, I'm like going to drive my Ferrari off a cliff and just go, dude, it was freaking rocking life and wave goodbye to my boys, as I'm like going over with a bottle of champagne,
I love this optimism. Driving the Ferrari off of the cliff at 107.
Exactly.
Beautiful. Love it. No old folks home for you.
No.
Exotic cars and huge jumps.
Man, live large, man.
Live large. We're in Texas. Everything's bigger in Texas.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. Except for those folks up in Dallas. They're big hat, no cattle. Big hat, no cattle.
Oh, my God. How have I never heard that? Big hat, no cattle.
Oh, that's absolutely true.
I've never heard that. Oh, my God.
Little rivalry between Houston and Dallas.
I know. Houston is definitely way less pretentious than Dallas. Oh, my gosh. It's different. But anyways, we won't go into that.
No, let's go into that.
That's why I moved back.
We can even say big hair. I mean, that's kind of what they're known for.
That's true.
Actually, a great
That's
story.
why I couldn't live there.
That's right. So, an interesting story, which a lot of people may not know, is, and you probably don't know because you're fairly new to Houston, right?
2009.
Okay, so River Oaks.
Yeah.
So when oil was discovered in Texas at Spindletop, all the oil guys made millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And they go, hey, let's go to Dallas, because Dallas was the hip hopping city at the time.
Hip hopping.
Hip and happening, exactly.
All
And the Dallas people go, that's oil money. That's dirty money. We don't want you here. And this is like in Highland Park. And so the oil guys go like, well, whatever.
Yeah.
We're going to Houston. And so they built River Oaks. And so River Oaks was built to be bigger, better than Highland Park. And if you look and compare the two, they absolutely are. You've got staggering mansions in River Oaks that Highland Park can't even compete with.
That's awesome.
Anyway, so
You hear that, Dallas? We're bigger and better.
exactly.
Well, I think that's a good way to segue towards the end here. What I wanted to do, by the way, because I know we got a little, I wouldn't even say scratching the surface.
Oh, wait. But let me just say, because you talk about love, I love you, Dallas.
Okay.
A little fun.
Fine. I love you too. I love you too, Dallas. But let's say, going back to mindfulness and meditation, I would say scratching the surface is a overstatement for what we talked about. We're not even close to scratching the surface. I know if anyone really wants to go down the rabbit hole of the next level of consciousness, they can go to your YouTube channel and everything that you're sharing over there. So where can they find you, Joe? Where can they find you?
Yeah, so I kind of stepped out of the corporate world, which is something we didn't talk about a while back. And I teach some spiritual stuff, some meditation, but my stuff is pretty advanced.
Way more advanced than me. So if you're listening and you think I sound crazy sometimes, well, Joe's in the asylum to you. But
I'm the king of the asylum, per Roger. And by the way, just so you also know, this is our second podcast take, because the first one, Roger was like going, dude, you're like so far out there. I can't even you got to talk about business, not spiritual stuff.
Yeah, I was, couldn't do it, man. But if you guys do want to hear that, we have it, and we will.
Exactly. It's on an unlisted YouTube video. So
we actually don't have it up on YouTube, but we can unlist it. We'll
just listen. So if you want that private link to a crazy conversation,
want the private link, it is definitely. And when I said I definitely don't think Joe's crazy, I just think that if you guys think I'm crazy, boy, do I have something in store for you.
It's not a matter of being crazy. It's a matter it's a matter of being not boring, man. Just exactly living life. Driving that Ferrari off the cliff at 107, man. It's like, always evolving.
Yeah, 100%. So back to, if someone wants to not be bored, where aside from...
Yeah, ping me at joeheller.com. So JOEHELLER.com. Mm-hmm. And even if you want to talk rapping about marketing or sales or branding, like I said, I've spoken all over the world on this stuff. I mean, it's just second nature to me. Yeah. I don't teach it or coach it, but if you want help, I'm happy to give you advice. Just because that's just the way I'm wired. Yeah. But if you want to step out into the unknown ethers and meditation and like an acid trip or something, I'm the guy to talk to.
A acid trip without the acid.
So, exactly.
So you gave your URL there, but what's the YouTube channel called again?
It's youtube.com/Joe Heller. So if you just go to /Joe Heller, you can find me on YouTube as well.
Search Joe Heller, they'll find you too.
Okay. Yeah. Just had a video blow up the other day. I put up on the law of attraction and how it creates negative karma. Oh man, talk about controversy.
Yeah, that's definitely controversy. But a lot of people like the law of attraction. Well, thanks again for coming on board. And I'm very, very grateful that you did a second take. I really enjoyed the last one. I just felt like, man, I was going to be way out. But if you guys want to hear it, we're going to unlist it.
Exactly. And then just go, Roger, this rocks. It's like, dude.
And you got to put this out.
Exactly. It's like, man, Tim Ferriss has nothing on you.
Actually, what I'll do is I'll post this one in the comments. I'll post the unlisted one.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then if they want to
check it out,
go down the rabbit hole.
Go down the rabbit hole. Exactly.
We'll go from there. But thanks for tuning in to Texas Tea, guys. Once again, I'm Roger D. And if you guys have any questions for Joe, you can go to his site. You can put them in the comments below on my YouTube channel. Obviously, if you're listening to the podcast, our YouTube channel is just Texas Tea Podcast. So it's going to be youtube.com/Texas Tea Podcast. Any and all feedback, would love it. We always want to improve our situation. As Joe said, always trying to improve. And we will look forward to having you guys listening to the next time. Be safe out there. Be happy and love.
And love, exactly. And make Monday the best day ever.
Make Monday the best day ever. And on that, we will call it on this hump day, Wednesday. Thanks for having you on.
Hey, thanks, Roger.
Have a good one.
And you too.